Good evening, seekers of truth, keepers of legacy, and listeners drawn to the untold stories that lie hidden behind the polite pages of our history books. Stories whispered in hushed corridors, half forgotten but too powerful to be buried forever. I am the Duke of New York, and this is Faces of History, where we peel back the layers of time to meet those who refuse to let the world tell them who they must be. Tonight, we stand beside a painter's easel in the soft gray light of early 20th century Europe, a world of carriages and corsets, of gallery openings and whispered scandals. We step into the life of a person who challenged what it meant to be born one thing and live as another, who stepped into her truth at a time when the word transgender did not even exist. Tonight, we meet Lili Ilse Elvenes, known to the world as Lili Elbe. Born Einar Wegener, a talented landscape painter in Denmark, but remembered as one of the first people to undergo gender-affirming surgery and to live, if only for a brief, shining moment, as the woman she always knew she was. This is not just a story of science or art or scandal. It is a story of identity, of love, of sacrifice, and of the courage to live and die as oneself, no matter what the world demanded in return. In the soft, rolling countryside of late 19th century Denmark, where the sky often seemed to stretch endlessly above fields of wheat and wildflowers, a boy was born who would one day challenge the very boundaries of identity. His name was Einar Magnus Andreas Wegener, and he came into this world on December 28, 1882, in the small town of Vejle. Einar's childhood was marked by the quiet rhythms of rural life, a life steeped in the traditions and expectations of the time. A world where boys were expected to be sturdy and straightforward, where the arts were often seen as delicate pursuits fit only for the privileged or the eccentric. Yet, even as a child, Einar displayed something unusual, an innate sensitivity, a painter's eye that saw the subtleties of light and shadow most would miss. While other boys played games of roughhousing, Einar was drawn to his sketchbook, to the stillness of nature's canvases. He found solace in the way the wind could ripple across a field of tall grass, or how the early morning mist softened the edges of a distant tree line. These moments became more than scenery. They were his language, his refuge. Einar's family was supportive, but conventional. His father worked in business, and though not wealthy, the family lived comfortably enough for Einar to pursue education. Recognizing his talent, they encouraged his artistic ambitions, and Einar enrolled at the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. The academy was a bastion of traditional art instruction, steeped in realism and the ideals of the European masters. Here, Einar's technical skills flourished. He became known for his landscapes, paintings filled with calm lakes, tangled woods, and cloudy skies, scenes that spoke of quiet beauty and timelessness. His brushstrokes were meticulous, yet imbued with a softness that hinted at something more personal, more profound. But beneath this conventional success, Einar harbored a secret restlessness. Even in his youth, friends noted his gentleness, his grace, qualities that many at the time might have deemed unmanly. And in a society rigidly divided by gender expectations, such traits often went unspoken, misunderstood. In 1904, Einar married Gerda Gottlieb, a fellow artist of bold spirit and confident stride. Gerda was everything Einar was not, outspoken, glamorous, and wildly ambitious. Their marriage was both a partnership and a creative symbiosis. They traveled together, exhibited their work, and shared the ups and downs of the artistic life. But their relationship also became the stage for something far more complex and intimate, the slow emergence of Lili, the woman waiting beneath Einar's surface. Gerda's portraits of women grew more radiant and sensual, many inspired by the quiet elegance of Lili's spirit. And when Gerda asked Einar to stand in as a female model, donning stockings and heels for a painting, a spark ignited that would change everything. This was not merely a moment of playfulness. It was the first time Einar saw himself reflected not as a man, but as a woman. The painter's eye that once captured tranquil landscapes now glimpsed the contours of a hidden self, a truth whispered in the soft curve of a stockinged ankle and the glint of a painted eyelash. Einar Wegener, the Danish boy with a painter's eye, had opened a door to a life few could imagine, a life where identity was not fixed by birth, but shaped by courage and longing. The journey from this quiet beginning to the woman known as Lili Elbe would be filled with heartbreak, discovery, and defiance, a story not only about art, but about the very essence of what it means to be human. What began as a playful gesture, a request from Gerda to Einar to fill in as a female model when her usual muse was absent, soon blossomed into something far more profound and irrevocable. It was an awakening, a stirring of something long buried beneath years of conformity and quiet yearning. Imagine a small artist's studio in Copenhagen, warm with the glow of candlelight and the scent of oil paint. Gerda, poised with her brushes and palette, asks Einar to slip into the delicate silk stockings, to fasten a garter, to stand in for a woman whose absence could not delay the work. What started as a light-hearted favor soon transformed into a revelation, a mirror held up to a soul aching to be seen. Dressed in the soft fabrics, Einar's posture changed, and so did his very essence. The rigid lines of masculine expectation softened into curves and grace. For Gerda, the experience was electrifying. She found a new muse, a living embodiment of beauty that transcended the rigid gender roles of their era. Her paintings shifted dramatically. No longer confined to traditional portraits, they became vibrant explorations of femininity, sensuality, and transformation. The woman who posed for these paintings bore the face of Lili Elbe, but for Einar, now increasingly known as Lili within their closest circles, this was no longer a mere masquerade or artistic experiment. It was the awakening of an identity as vital as the air she breathed. The secret that had whispered in shadows for years was now stepping forward, shimmering with hope and danger alike. Theirs was a complicated dance, a marriage strained and deepened by this revelation. Gerda supported Lili's emergence with fierce loyalty, even as society's unforgiving eyes grew sharper and more judgmental. Parisian salons and Berlin's avant-garde circles were often more accepting than conservative Copenhagen, but even there, whispers followed every glance, every gesture. Lili's appearances became bolder. She attended social gatherings dressed in women's clothes, her every step a declaration of defiance. Yet, the world was not kind to those who transgressed the boundaries of sex and gender. The risk was great, the penalties severe, from social ostracism to legal repercussions. Still, Lili found strength in Gerda's companionship and the small community of early 20th century pioneers and intellectuals exploring sexuality and identity, circles that included the likes of Magnus Hirschfeld, a German physician and sexologist whose Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin would later become a sanctuary for Lili. Gerda's art immortalized Lili's transformation. Her most famous paintings from this period, delicate, intimate portraits of a woman with Lili's luminous eyes and soft smile, captured more than beauty. They captured a spirit reborn, fragile yet unbreakable. And yet the price of this awakening was heavy. Lili's journey was not just one of self-discovery, but also of profound loss. The public did not always know her truth, but the pressure to conform, to hide, to pretend was relentless. The legal systems of Denmark and Germany recognized only the binary, and marriage laws refused to acknowledge the reality of their changing relationship. As Lili Elbe moved ever further into the light of her true self, she also stepped into the shadows of isolation and heartbreak. But the courage to live authentically, to awaken from the life she was born into and become the life she was meant to live, would echo through history, laying the groundwork for countless others who would come after. In this awakening, Lili Ilse Elvenes not only became her own muse, but also a beacon for the generations who dared to challenge the world's narrow definitions of identity. By the early 1930s, the world was on the cusp of monumental change in politics, in society, and in the very understanding of human nature. Amid this swirling upheaval, science itself was pushing boundaries, challenging old certainties, and daring to dream where before there had only been silence or taboo. For Lili Ilse Elvenes, this era of burgeoning knowledge offered a fragile but luminous hope. At a time when gender was still seen as an unyielding fact of biology, when the words we use today, transgender, gender identity, were yet to be coined, Lili stepped into a brave new world where medical science could, for the first time, begin to align the body with the soul's truth. The story of Lili's transformation is inseparable from one man, Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld, the German physician, sexologist, and pioneering advocate for sexual minorities. Hirschfeld's Institute for Sexual Science in Berlin was a sanctuary for those who lived beyond the strict binaries of the day, a place where research, compassion, and radical thinking converged. Hirschfeld himself was a visionary who understood that human identity was complex and fluid, not easily pinned down by laws or narrow definitions. It was here that Lili found not just medical care, but also a community that saw her not as a curiosity or a criminal, but as a human being seeking wholeness. Hirschfeld and his colleagues were at the forefront of what we now call gender-affirming surgery, a groundbreaking field that sought to align the physical body with the mind's deepest sense of self. The surgeries Lili underwent were experimental, precarious leaps into the unknown. Medical technology was primitive by today's standards, and the risks were immense. These were not simple cosmetic procedures, but invasive operations that altered the very structure of the body, surgeries on the genitals and reproductive organs, requiring immense skill and bravery from both patient and doctor. In 1930, Lili became one of the first people in history to receive such treatments, traveling from Denmark to Germany to undergo these procedures. Her story captured the world's imagination. Headlines called her a miracle, a scientific curiosity, a transsexual pioneer. But behind the sensationalism was a deeply personal journey of hope, pain, and resilience. These surgeries were more than physical transformations. They were acts of profound self-affirmation, defying the era's harsh social mores and legal restrictions. Lili's courage was extraordinary. She risked not only her health, but also her standing in society, knowing full well the stigma and rejection that awaited. But the path was perilous. The medical community itself was divided. Some hailed these advances as progress, while others condemned them as unnatural or immoral. The political climate in Germany was growing darker, with the rise of forces hostile to Hirschfeld's inclusive vision. In 1933, the Institute for Sexual Science was destroyed by Nazi book burnings, a tragic blow to the early movement for sexual and gender rights. Lili's final surgery was the most radical and risky, a full gender reassignment, including the removal of male reproductive organs and the creation of female genitalia. The operation was groundbreaking, but fraught with danger. Complications arose, and her health deteriorated. In 1931, after this last procedure, Lili Ilse Elvenes passed away at just 48 years old in Dresden, Germany. Though her life was tragically cut short, her legacy was monumental. She had crossed the frontier of science and identity, becoming a symbol of the profound human desire to live authentically, regardless of the risks. Lili's story challenges us to look at science not as cold or detached, but as a deeply human endeavor, a way of bending the world to meet the needs of the individual spirit. It reminds us that progress is often born in the crucible of risk and courage, that every scientific breakthrough carries the weight of human hopes and fears. As we reflect on Lili Ilse Elvenes' journey through science at the edge, we see not only the pioneering surgeries, but the dawn of a broader understanding that identity is more than biology, that the body is a canvas shaped by the mind's truth, and that the quest for selfhood is one of the most profound journeys any human can undertake. To truly understand the transformation of Lili Ilse Elvenes, we must look beyond the surgeries, beyond the headlines, beyond the scandal and the science, and see the woman herself, not as a mere subject of curiosity, but as a soul claiming her birthright to live authentically in a world that refused to understand. The journey from Einar Wegener to Lili Elbe was not a single moment, but a long, arduous unfolding. It was a process woven with hope, fear, love, and an unrelenting search for truth. Each step marked by both triumph and heartbreak. Lili was more than a name she chose. It was an affirmation, a declaration of existence. It was the name she embraced when she looked in the mirror and finally saw the woman she had always known herself to be. Her life became a careful balance between two worlds. Publicly, she was a symbol, a living testament to the possibilities of modern medicine and the evolving understanding of gender. Privately, she wrestled with the loneliness and danger that such visibility brought. Imagine the courage it took to leave behind the familiar identity of Einar, to walk away from the life she had known, a respected artist, a husband, a man recognized by society, to step into the uncertain light of Lili Elbe. In letters and accounts from friends and Gerda, we glimpse moments of profound joy and devastating sorrow. Gerda remained a steadfast supporter, her love transformed but unwavering. Their bond was tested as it evolved from traditional marriage to a complex partnership, marked by both pain and deep connection. Lili's new identity brought freedoms she had never known: the freedom to dress as she wished, to express the fullness of her femininity, to live openly, at least within the rare and limited spaces that tolerated such courage. Yet society's gaze was often cruel. The press, hungry for sensation, reduced her to headlines and caricatures. The law did not recognize her true self. Many friends turned away, frightened or ashamed. And internally, Lili faced the physical toll of pioneering medical procedures, pain, complications, uncertainty. But with every step, she claimed more of herself. The artist's eye that once captured landscapes now reflected a deeper landscape, that of identity, resilience, and transformation. Becoming Lili was not merely about changing bodies. It was about embracing an essence that had been hidden, suppressed, or misunderstood for decades. It was about saying, "This is who I am," in a time when saying such a thing could lead to ostracism, ridicule, or worse. Lili's story is a testament to the profound human desire for authenticity, to live as one's true self, despite the costs. It challenges us to rethink identity not as fixed or dictated by birth, but as fluid, courageous, and deeply personal. And so as Lili Elbe, she became a beacon, a pioneer blazing a trail through uncharted territory, lighting a path for countless others who would follow, seeking their own truths. Her life, though brief, echoes across the decades as a powerful reminder that becoming oneself is a journey fraught with peril, but filled with the possibility of freedom. Lili Ilse Elvenes' life was brief, just 48 years, but the echo she left behind reverberates through history louder than many who lived a century or more. Her story is not just a footnote in the annals of medical science or a chapter in the history of art. It is a profound human narrative about identity, courage, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity in a world that often denies it. When Lili passed away in 1931 after her final surgery, she was mourned quietly by a small circle of friends and loved ones. Her death was a tragic end to a journey filled with hope and groundbreaking discovery. But it was far from the end of her impact. For decades, Lili's story faded into obscurity, eclipsed by social taboos and historical amnesia. In a world still grappling with rigid gender norms and widespread discrimination against transgender people, her legacy was often misunderstood or ignored. But the quiet strength of her life began to stir again in the late 20th century, as conversations around gender identity and expression gained momentum. Lili became recognized as one of the earliest documented recipients of gender-affirming surgery, a pioneer who faced unimaginable risks to live her truth. Her story has inspired generations of transgender people, activists, and allies who see in Lili a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. She became a symbol not just of medical progress, but of human dignity, a reminder that the right to define oneself is fundamental. Books, films, and academic studies have sought to capture her life, the beauty and the tragedy, the art and the science, the woman who was born Einar and became Lili. The 2015 film The Danish Girl, for instance, brought her story to a global audience, sparking renewed interest and dialogue. Yet, Lili's legacy is not without complexity. Her journey took place in a time when the language of gender was limited, and the medical interventions were perilous. The narrative often risks being simplified into sensational headlines or romanticized tales, sometimes overshadowing the very real human costs and struggles she endured. More importantly, her story challenges us to confront the ongoing struggles faced by transgender people worldwide: the fight for healthcare access, the battle against discrimination, the quest for legal recognition and social acceptance. Lili's life is a mirror reflecting how far we've come and how far we still must go. In remembering Lili Ilse Elvenes, we honor not just a pioneer of transgender history, but a person who lived and died with courage in the face of a world that often refused to see her for who she truly was. Her echo reminds us that history is not only made by kings and conquerors, but also by those who dare to be themselves, who carve out space for truth in the margins, and who remind us that identity is not a prison, but a horizon. So as we close this chapter of Faces of History, let us ask ourselves, how do we listen to the echoes of lives like Lili's? How do we honor their courage by creating a world where everyone can live freely, authentically, and without fear. Lili's life is a testament, a beacon shining across time, calling us to recognize the humanity in every person's journey, to embrace complexity, and to never stop pushing the boundaries of understanding and compassion. Tonight, we have walked with Lili Ilse Elvenes, a woman who dared to rewrite the very script of identity in an era unprepared to understand her truth. From the quiet streets of Copenhagen to the cutting-edge operating rooms of Berlin, Lili's journey was one of both brilliant light and deep shadows. Her life reminds us that history is rarely simple. It is messy, fraught with contradictions, with moments of profound joy and devastating loss. Lili was a pioneer, yes, but also a human being, vulnerable and brave, caught in a world still wrestling with its own definitions of self and other. She teaches us that to live authentically can be the most radical act of all, especially when the world insists you conform to molds not made for you. Her courage was not just in the surgeries or the public appearances, but in every quiet moment when she chose to be herself, despite the risks, despite the loneliness, despite the uncertainty. Lili's story echoes far beyond her own time, reverberating through the lives of countless people still fighting to be seen and accepted for who they truly are. It challenges us to ask ourselves, how do we respond when someone's truth does not fit into our neat categories? Do we open our hearts or close our minds? Do we reach out or turn away? Her life is a beacon, a call to empathy, to understanding, to radical acceptance. It asks us to look beyond bodies and labels to the souls beneath, to honor the stories that history too often leaves in the margins. As we close tonight's chapter of Faces of History, remember this: the faces of history are not just those immortalized in statues or textbooks. They are the quiet voices, the hidden lives, the courageous souls who challenge us to see the world anew. Look closely, listen deeply, because in the stories of Lili Ilse Elvenes and those like her, we find not only the past, but the hope for a more compassionate future. I am the Duke of New York. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, keep questioning, keep remembering, and keep looking closely at the faces of history, for in them, you may just find your own reflection. Good night.